All right, we are live. Thank you, Larry. Good evening, everyone. Today is May 4th, 2021. I'm calling the Public Works Committee meeting of the Common Council to order at 7:12 p.m. If you guys don't mind, I'll just announce who's here instead of doing roll call. Is that okay with everyone? Awesome. We have with us today George Sironides, myself, Councilwoman Barbara Smith, Councilman Tom Livingston, Councilman Manny Langella, Councilman George Theodorides. From the Public Works Committee, with us we also have Councilman Huvelman and Councilwoman Ruvelez. Okay, Monique, do we have anybody that wants to join us for public input?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, has anybody received any emails or notices that they would like to pass along to the committee? Okay, seeing none, I guess we'll move on to new business. Item number 1, approve the minutes of the Public Works Committee meeting of Tuesday, April 6, 2021. Would anybody like to move that item? Thank you, Ms. Smith. I'm sorry, Ms. Ruvelez, you're not on the committee. I would have taken that move, though. I would have. If nobody else put their hand on, I would have taken it, I swear. Thank you, Ms. Smith. Are there any corrections, additions, changes? Yes, Mr. Livingston.
Thank you. Just on page 5, the second to last paragraph, it states that Mr. Livingston stated that he always asked about zoning issues, so they moved out. I'd like to change that to change the word, the end of the sentence, so it would read, asked about zoning issues and was interested to hear that they moved out. So replace the word so with and was interested to hear that. Otherwise,
I am on health and public safety, just to let you know.
Okay.
Okay.
So Monique, did you get that?
Yes, Mr. Livingston.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Any other changes, corrections? All right. All in favor?
Aye, Manny Langella.
All right. It's unanimous. Thank you. Item number 2A. I'm going to move 2A and 2B together. I'm sorry. I'm going to read 2A and 2B together. Item 2A, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with B&W Paving and Landscaping LLC for project PM 2021-2.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, this is not the correct agenda, the revised one. This is not the correct item.
Okay. Do you have that for me? You could pull it on the screen for me, please?
Sure.
Read off that. Thank
Yeah,
you.
just give me 2 seconds.
Sure. All right, sorry for the holdup, guys. A lot of changes. Hey, Vanessa, are you able to share that or?
Yeah, I'm gonna share right now. I was looking for it, sorry. It's just that I'm not in my computer, so to have a little bit. Larry, I need,
Yeah, I just gave you permission.
okay.
You should be all set.
comes. Thank you, Vanessa.
No problem.
All right, so it's item 2A and 2B. Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Deering Construction, Inc. for project PM 2021-2, permanent roadway repairs and service restoration for an amount not to exceed $320,380. Account noted. Item 2B, authorize the Chief of Operations and Public Works to execute orders on contract with Deering Construction, Inc. for project PM 2021-2, permanent roadway repairs and service restoration for an amount not to exceed $32,038. Account noted. Would anybody like to move that item? All right, sorry, guys, I gotta go back to full screen. Thank you, Mr. Livingston. Who would like to speak on that today?
Hey, Mr. Chairman. So
Okay.
this is, you may have seen this contract before, but the permanent roadway repairs and surface restoration is what we call our annual patch contract. So what this contract allows Public Works to do is, whenever we issue an encroachment permit to work within our right of way to developers, contractors, utility companies, et cetera, like First Taxing District and Eversource, they have to perform their excavation, dig our pavement out, make their repairs or their capital improvements, whatever they're doing at the time. And then when they backfill that trench or patch or hole, they put what's called temporary pavement. And the reason why it's temporary is because it's sacrificial. We want control of our product being the asphalt. So what we do is when we issue these permits, we get a fee from each entity, which covers our cost to pave and also administrative fee. So after the year ends and we have a list of all the patches, we locate each one, we go back and we permanently repair the patch, meaning we dig out and we remove or mill the old asphalt and we put down a permanent patch. So it's a little bit more of a stable, secure patch with our asphalt, and we have our contract to do it for quality control purposes. So this is to go back and fix and restore whatever work was done within the right of way by a non-city entity.
Thank you, Anthony. Any questions? Mr. Livingston?
I guess one quick one. So Anthony, does that mean that, we're reimbursed the whole amount here? I mean, this.
Well, yes. So this is if you look at the account noted, it's an 03 account. The first 3 digits, that's a revenue account. So that means
Oh, okay.
So when you see 01, it's general fund. When you see 03, it's a special account, revenue account. And when 09 is capital accounts. Those are basically the 3 crash course numbers. So an 03 account is a revenue account. So we collect the fund, like you said, Tom, we collect the revenue from each, let's say Eversource. That goes into a pot in our operating budget, if you want to call it that, although it's a special account. And then we use this as a revenue stream. So we pay our expenses through their revenues.
Oh, great.
From there.
Okay.
Right.
Great.
So it's
thank you.
revolving. I guess it's a self-revolving fund, if you want to call it that.
Got it.
Any other questions? Okay, all in favor?
Manu Langella, aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you. Item number 3, authorizing mayor, by the way, Vanessa, this is the correct item, right? That was the only one that was changed, right?
That's correct. That was the only one. Sorry, Chairman.
No, that's okay. Thank you very much. Item number 3, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Woods Men's and Boys Clothing for project number 4087 for a sum not to exceed $17,680 for fiscal year 2021-22, $18,148 for fiscal year 2022-23, and $18,447 for fiscal year 2023-24, with an option to extend for 2 additional terms of 1 year each. Account noted. Who would like to speak on this? I see
Mr.
what-
Chairman, I'll begin, and then the superintendent of operations can add anything that I miss. So this basically is a contract for our uniform allowance that we have as part of the operations staff per union agreement. If you notice too, the account noted begins with 01, so it's coming out of the general fund operating budget. So this is for every 3 years, we have to provide new uniforms to members. And if you look, there's an annual, it's a 1-year contract with two additional terms. So it ends up being a 3-year contract, much like item 4 when you see that. We've used this vendor before. I believe Mr. Torrey could speak a little bit more towards that. We're happy with the vendor. The staff is happy with the vendor. And again, this is for the uniform allowance and for uniforms for our staff, operations staff specifically.
Oh, I'm sorry. Would anybody like to move the item? I jumped ahead.
Sorry.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. I know we have Mr. Torrey with us here tonight. Thank you, Anthony. You said we have used this company in the past. We haven't had any problems with them as far as.
Correct. Correct.
All right. Certainly, we've used this company for the last 5 years. I believe there were 9 bids that came in as part of this packet. And looking over all of them, Galls was close, but they mostly do police and fire uniforms, not public works. We need kind of something a little bit more durable. So we've used them for the last 5 years, and they've also kept their prices static through for the last 3 years, moving forward for the first 3 years of this contract.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, all in favor?
Andy Langella, aye.
Unanimous. All right, thank you, guys. Moving on. Item number 4. Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Olmsted Tree Company for project number for a sum not to exceed $60,000. Is that right? Project number? Should there be a number there or no?
No, you're right, Mr. Chairman. For a sum not to exceed $60,000.
All right, for fiscal year 2021-22, $60,000 for fiscal year 2022-23, and $60,000 for fiscal year 2023-24, with an option to extend for 2 additional terms of 1 year each. Account noted. Who would like to move the item? Thank you, Mr. Livingston. Who would like to speak on it?
Mr. Chairman, sorry, go ahead, Chris.
This contract is for tree services that cannot be performed by DPW, meaning if a tree has to be climbed because it's too tall, our bucket trucks only go up 75 feet. So our guys are insured to climb, so they don't get out of the bucket. So sometimes you need a crane to take down a tree or something like specialty equipment, or if a tree falls on a house in a storm, which has happened, our guys typically don't take a tree off of a house for liability purposes. We've been sued in the past for people saying that we did more damage than the tree did to their house. So we just contract that out and use their insurance for things like that. Just a quick note, when I took over the tree program back in 2006, our tree budget was $250,000 a year to remove trees. Since then, it went down to $60,000 for DPW, $60,000 for parks, and now it's just $60,000 for public works. And 9 times out of 10, we don't even spend the whole $60,000. We only contract out the work that we can do.
All right, Mr. Chairman, to add to that too, to Chris's point, this contract is very handy for, a tropical storm, or when we're dealing with making roads safe and passable, the primary roads or the arterial roads. A lot of times we could deploy the tree company to take down some other trees on maybe collector roads or secondary roads, because again, we only have 2 tree crews, 8 people. Obviously, it's all hands situation, but there's only so much output and bandwidth that we have for tree removal, especially during an incident or large scale incident. So having the ability to employ a contractor, to obviously we'd have to choose carefully where they go because the money's not ever ending, but we'd pick select locations, which I know Chris has done before, and or when we're taking down a lot of trees, let's say we don't have the manpower, the resources to go back and grind the stumps, we can employ their services to grind the stumps so we can continue moving on with the trees, as opposed to taking those same resources and having them grind the stumps. So there's a lot of flexibility with having the tree contract during an emergency or a natural disaster or unforeseen condition. This type of contract is very handy, especially if it's going to be reimbursed during COVID or FEMA.
That's awesome.
And in addition to the day-to-day operations.
That's great. $6,000 doesn't seem like a lot of money, knowing personally how much a tree would cost to take down a large tree itself. So it's great that we get by with that and sometimes come under. And also to have the option to call somebody if it is a situation where a tree's on a house or it's too tall for our equipment to take care of. Are there any questions? All right, seeing none. All in favor?
Andy Langella, aye.
Thank you. It's unanimous. Item number 5, authorize the purchasing agent to issue a purchase via sole source to Asset Works Inc. for the Fuel Focus Island Collector upgrade in the amount of $39,503.58. Accounts noted. Who would like to move the item? Thank you, Mr. Langella. Anthony, why is this a sole source item? Can,
I'm not sure he's still on.
yep,
Sole source because the city uses Asset Works as our fleet management software. So as part of Asset Works, there's also a software called Fuel Focus that we use that work in tandem with each other. To explain it, you pull up to our gas pumps, you wave the key fob in front of the thing, and it turns on the fuel pump, and it keeps track of how much fuel you use and the mileage. That way we keep control of people taking fuel for other purposes. So right now we have 4 fuel islands, and the 2 diesel fuel islands don't work most of the time. We have to get IT out there, and it's like a 4-hour process to fix it. Some of it is they haven't been upgraded because we had contemplated doing a new fuel island this year as a capital project, but with COVID, we tried to hold off. But we do have to spend this to get our diesel fuel pumps working. We kind of lived through the winter, not replacing it, but we do have to replace it now. And it's a sole source because we're invested heavily in Asset Works, and it would probably cost well over that to explore using a different company other than us.
okay. Any questions from the committee? All right, seeing none, all in favor?
Manny Langella, aye.
Great. Item number 6. Technical correction of the Common Council action of December 11, 2018, item 7C4, to add accounts designated for professional engineering services for the inspection and elevations of city-owned bridges 20 feet or less in length. Account numbers noted and account numbers noted. Who would like to move the item? Thank you, Mr. Livingston. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, this item is like you stated, it's just a technical correction. We're adding 2 account numbers. They're both capital account numbers because they begin with 09. This is just additional funding sources from fiscal year 17 and fiscal year 19, which are the second 2 numbers. They're additional funding sources, exactly what the description says, and as approved previously by the council. This allows us to perform professional services, Freeman by Freeman companies. That's the consultant who's been retained to inspect our small span bridges, which the state Department of Transportation defines as 20 foot or less. So we have a 3-year cycle program as part of our capital program, where the first year we inspect the bridges, the second year we design the improvements, and then the third year we construct the improvements. So we won't be able to do everything all together, but that was good planning on the principal engineer's part and also the engineering staff to develop that type of cycle. So again, this was previously approved. We're just adding additional 2 funding sources, capital. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. Are there any additional questions? All right, all in favor?
Manny Langella, aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you. All right, well, that closes the new business portion. On to information and discussion. Item A, discussion. A1 Connecticut DOT Wetland Mitigation Easement Update. A 15 and 60 Smith Street B, 185 Liberty Square. Who would like to update us on that?
We're gonna have Mr. Kellingham, because he left DPW committee, so he cannot be along without us, so we invite him again. Do you mind starting, then if you need anything, I can jump in.
Well, thank you, Vanessa. So I just wanted to let everyone know we've had a number of conversations with DOT regarding the easements that we've already brought through the public approval process. It's the ones that were just identified: 185 Liberty Square, 15 and 60 South Smith Street. There's also 30 Monroe. There's a few more coming through, but I thought this was a good time just to update you that the underlying easement agreements have been totally worked out. We expect the compensation to be coming in sometime fairly soon. But I did, in reviewing my notes, notice that we indicated, I think during either one or both of the public sessions, that the DOT was going to cover maintenance of these mitigation areas. And I did want to just make clear, and that's why I asked to be put on for informational purposes, that DOT's position is that it should be, and it will be the city's obligation to maintain them. So I just wanted to advise the committee and see if any further action needs to be taken on the part of the law department.
Darren, and maintaining, I'm sorry, can anybody have a, oh, that might be an echo from you, sorry, Darren. In the city maintaining this property going forward, is there gonna be any additional cost associated with it because of the DOT being there?
That's a great question. So we currently maintain these properties, so nothing will change. It won't increase our operational costs. Well, we just had thought mistakenly that it might actually decrease our operational costs. It turns out these easement areas are really, and truly just the riverbank. I mean, we're talking about from the low tide to the high tide marker, more or less, of the river banks. Vanessa will correct me if I'm wrong, but it's pretty close to that. And so there's really not, in further discussions with the DOT, there's really not much maintenance that really would be done traditionally in this area. We were just crossing the T's and dotting the I's, and I noticed it on my notes, and it's just a correction I thought I should bring to the committee for knowledge purposes.
So Darren, just to follow up on that, there's no new obligations in terms of different standards then. It's just not, we don't have to maintain them to a different standard than we're doing now. Right?
Oh, no. In fact, for the most part, they don't want us even in there. You know, the intent is to put in certain species of plants for mitigation efforts and to do other mitigation activities. And one of the, their prohibitions are generally don't, no mowing, dumping, or otherwise, diverting drainage into that area. The purpose is to protect the area. So no, it doesn't increase the cost or put any additional higher standards or burdens on the city regarding the areas. It's just a point of clarification.
So the state will be also spraying that area to get rid of the phragmites on a yearly basis. So kind of that's what they do that is not for us to do. So that is really kind of the only, let's say, kind of what we understood before that would be their maintenance. So that's why we just want to clarify that we do maintain, but there is really no maintenance to do, and they're responsible for spraying for the phragmites.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Item number 2, project status, sediment removal contract update. Who wants to go on that one?
Vanessa. Thank you.
So we finalized really excavating on the 5 sites. Now we are back to do the restabilization of the sites, which involves some planting, sometimes installing some fencing, and we are now in the process of doing that. There is one area that we probably want to need to go back to address, but we are asking for to do an amendment to our permit that will improve a little bit the flooding in one of the areas. So we don't know what, so we already start the process for that amendment to the permit. So I don't have any updates now, but on the base bid, pretty much all the work, all the excavation work is completed. The good thing is that we didn't get any flooding complaints on those areas during this last spring storms at all. The only thing that we've been hearing back is about when we're gonna finalize restoring, moving the machines and all, and planting the plants that we disturb. But besides that, I would say that we're pretty much done with the core of this contract.
Awesome. Any questions? All right, thank you, Vanessa. Dreamy Hollow Drainage System Improvement Update.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is the Friendly Pond drainage improvements. Vanessa and staff are making great progress in coordinating with Woodard and Kern. The long or the short of it is we'll have 60% design drawings very soon. So that's almost, 2/3 of the way. And the bigger picture is we plan to have bid documents ready for the fall and construction start by the fall. And whether that's early to mid will depend on some coordination that we have to do with adjacent utilities, namely First Taxing District water, because as part of these drainage improvements, which will include bigger structures going down the middle of the road. And some of you might have seen them. They're called box culverts. They're shaped like a box, but they're 8 to 10 feet wide. Obviously, there's not really much real estate in the road. So in order to put those culverts in, or those bigger boxes or pipes, we need to relocate some of the other utilities. And one of those utilities is the water line. So as part of this project, the residents in that area will get new water lines, new drainage improvements, obviously. And then we're also going to be coupling in sanitary sewer improvements within that area too, because and when I say that area, Friendly, Assisi Way, Saddle, Surrey, that kind of area, Dry Hill Road, because a lot of these sanitary sewers there are either sagging, so they don't drain properly until they're a little bit full, or they are reverse pitched, meaning they go back the other way. And obviously that can be problematic. People can get sewage in their basements. Sewage can come out of a manhole cover, which we don't want. So as part of these drainage improvements, we will also incorporate water main improvements and sanitary sewer improvements. So that's why it's taking us a little bit longer. We were hoping to have construction documents ready for the summer, but we're going to shift it to the fall, and we rather do it right and do all the improvements together than piecemeal and not consider these things in the future. So we're taking this opportunity to improve everything and not just looking at the one tree in the forest. And again, shovel in the ground is expected on or before October.
That's great. It's wonderful that we're going to improve a couple of other utilities that are going through there. This has been a problem area for a long time for these residents, and I'm sure they'd be more than pleased to know that not only are we dealing with the drainage issue, but also improving other utilities.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Anthony, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to ask if there were any other comments.
Yeah,
Go
and does that add anything to the cost? I mean, were you planning to do something anyway and built it into the budget?
It is built into the budget. We'll have to use other capital accounts to cover some of the costs, like for the paving, right? When we do all this work, we'll have to go curb to curb. So we'll have to use some of the paving money there. Yes, we did incorporate, and we were aware of some utility relocation, whether it be gas, water. But the good part is for the sanitary sewer improvements, which kind of came up at the 30% level when we took a step back and said, this would be a great time to include those in. That will be paid for under WPCA funding. So that'll be part of the enterprise funding. So we're really, Tom, just paying for the paving, the water, the little bit of gas, if any, relocation, and the drainage improvements. And then the paving that out of the drainage capital project, which the council knows is water course maintenance. Then if we need to tap into the paving capital account, we will, to pave the road. And then we can use the sanitary sewer WPCA funding to cover the sanitary sewer cost.
Okay, great. All right, thanks.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? All right. Oh, I saw a hand up. Item C, curbs and sidewalks. Now, Anthony, it seems like we're coming to the end of the Woodward Avenue project finally. Can you tell us a bit about that?
I can give an update on that. So actually, first we're gonna finish 2nd Street. I'm excited to tell you guys that we should be out of that whole area by the end of this week, at least with all the sidewalks. So grass will be finalized in 2nd Street this week. And of course, as soon as we start getting our paving contractor, starting the road, 2nd Street is one of the priorities that will go there. We'll finish that one and then we finalize that area. Then the other crew is at Woodward. The plan is to finish that by end of May. As you guys may be aware, we changed the traffic pattern to expedite that curb installation in one segment of the road. So we go one way northbound from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. during weekdays. And that is helping a lot for us to move it forward. So by end of May, they should be out of there. And the goal is to move them to probably mid-May, when we have the Second Street crew available. We're probably gonna start them at the Bartlett Manor neighborhood. That was one of the areas that we were planning to do. And so that's the plan, and this should keep us busy until kind of June.
Mr. Chairman, just to add to Vanessa's point, after that, we will be moving into a different area too later in the year. We're undergoing design, but the Ohio, I know we've spoken about this too, the Ohio Avenue, Ohio Street area, which encompasses Center Avenue, Plymouth, Ward, and there's a few other streets, but in that area, I know we received a couple inquiries about when that road is going to be paved, because that area does look, it needs some help for sure. But again, we're going to do the curbs and sidewalks first later this year, because we're in design right now for those later this year. And then the goal is to pave that area by spring, early to late spring of 2022. So that will, there's a method to the madness, and we always try to go to the curbs and sidewalks first before we pave a road. And obviously we investigate the subsurface utilities, and if there's any drainage work that needs to get done in those areas, we'll do that first before we move over.
So that one will be also a very big area, like the same as the Gregory Boulevard Cove Road. And so it is about the same kind of project that we're planning to do. We're finalizing the whole design. With some few comments back, we should be able to get it finalized in the next few weeks. And then we're gonna first start with the drainage. We need to do some drainage corrections there. And then after that gets done, then we're gonna move to the curbs and sidewalks. What we're probably gonna do is we're gonna actually include that in our next bid. Usually we bid the curbs and sidewalk project in June. We use our July 1st money. So we're probably gonna make that as the main scope for what we call next year, but otherwise this year's sidewalk project. So we're hoping that as soon as we get someone on board, we're gonna start that right away. We can start drainage before. We have a separate on-call drainage contractor. Remember that you guys approved that last year. So that's when we use our on-call drainage to go first, take care of the drainage, and then we send the sidewalk contractor there. We're gonna get that going, and then paving will follow. So Anthony stated correctly, we should have that complete, hopefully everything from underground, sidewalk, and paving by spring of next year.
Mr. Hewlin, sorry.
Thank you, Chairman. Just want to say thank you, Anthony and Vanessa, for that information. I've had a bunch of constituents that have been asking about that particular area, that Ward Street, Plymouth area, and I appreciate the information.
Very welcome.
Any other questions about curbs, sidewalks? All right. Item B, tree operations and programming.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'll keep this brief, but just two main points. We wanted to speak about the success of Arbor Day. It was a great event. It was last Friday, 1 o'clock. There was a big turnout. I have to thank Chris Story, Paul Sotnick, especially in the operations staff for the setup and breakdown of the area, and all the diligence between Paul reaching out to the Board of Education, making sure Dr. Estrella was there. We had State Rep Dayton show up, Senator Duff, Councilman Livingston was there, and many others, the mayor. It was a really good event. We had a lot of the conservation groups there too. Audrey Kozrin, who represents the Oak Hills Nature Advisory Committee, TAC, Tree Advisory Committee. We had the president of the Norwalk Tree Alliance, Howard Broadbent. He's fantastic to deal with. It really was an opportunity, obviously, to plant 10 new trees, 5 within the site, Oak Hill site, 3 on Philo Street, where we currently have the 3 dead trees damaged by, it looks like from the last storm event, and they were actually starting to hang over some of the utility wires. We're going to replant 3 trees in the right of way, 5 trees in Oak Hills Park, and then there's 2 trees that were off site at the Brookside Elementary School and also the Kendall School too. So the 10 trees in total, Eversource gave us an additional $1,500. So Eversource paid for 5 of those trees. They also gave us a big check, if you want to call it that, although they don't do the big paper checks anymore, but they assured us the checks in the mail for another $1,500, which roughly buys us another 2 trees to plant as well. So it'll be 7 in total. It was a really great event. We spoke about the history of some of the trees, the elm trees, but really it was a chance to give Public Works and the Tree Advisory Committee and North Tree Alliance and Audrey Kozer and her group FaceTime and to talk about the process and the collaboration moving forward, which, I wanted to explain whenever we have a replanting plan come in, for example, Oak Hills Park, we all heard about the trees that were cut down by Eversource. So Eversource owes us a replanting plan, which they're working on right now. And the thought is the flow should be to make it at least efficient and not circular, a linear path. They would prepare a planting plan. The city would administer the tree planting program, DPW. There'd be a tree liaison in DPW, which is Paul Sotnick. Paul Sotnick would take that plan and he'd place it on the Tree Advisory Committee agenda. At that point, the Norwalk Tree Alliance and Audrey Kozerin's group, which is the Oak Hills Nature Advisory Committee, would be notified that it's on the agenda. They can come speak at the meeting, and the gatekeeper, the city would still remain as the gatekeeper to the plan, right? So Ken Hughes, Chris Torrey, engineering would all have a say in it, get something near finalized, bring it to TAC. They would look at it, give their input, and then they'd include Norwalk Tree Alliance and the Oak Hills Nature Advisory Committee for additional input once the plan is, let's say, 75% of the way there. Because I explained to Audrey that we don't want to fall into the municipal pitfall where we're just constantly, there's too many cooks in the kitchen, too many chiefs, and there's not enough worker bees to actually put the plan together. And then thoughts become very siloed, and then it just becomes an email trail. So we want everything to be transparent. That plan will be placed on the agenda. There will be a plan put together before anybody sees it, because there needs to be something proposed that we could speak to and talk to. TAC would be the gatekeepers for the committee, and then obviously the subsets, Norwalk Tree Alliance and the Oak Hills Nature Advisory Committee would have their input too. So there'd be an opportunity for those who feel are not heard to be heard and to be more included. Certainly not working in a vacuum, but again, we need to keep the plans moving forward, because if we have 20 groups giving 20 ideas, then nothing's going to get done. And I've seen it in other municipalities too. Then it kind of just stalls and it lags, and it's not a good thing. So that was an opportunity to speak about that in person. But again, it was a very successful event. I think it's something that we needed, especially throughout COVID. And Councilman Livingston, I know you could speak a little bit more to it too. I can't say enough good things. It was good because trees are at the forefront, and it's been a long year and a half for everybody. So I think it was good to get everybody out there together and to celebrate hopefully many more Arbor Days to come.
Yeah. If I could, I want to add, it was a really great event. I mean, it was one of the first occasions I've seen where we have such a broad group of people together, people and organizations together who all work around the city, in support of trees. And I think Anthony, you and Chris and Paul and everybody else in your organization did a really terrific job. I think, as I said, it was one of the first events I've seen that has this type of involvement with all the different constituencies, and having the Board of Education there was great too, because then the tie into the kids in the schools was particularly good. So thank you for doing that. I think it was really great.
Very welcome. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add too, for the tree operations and programming to shift from Arbor Day. What I've been working on with the superintendent of operations was, we talk about a lot of the tree work being done, whether it's maintenance, tree removals, maintenance, stump grinding, pruning. But what we have been doing since March is the superintendent of operations has been working with his tree foreman, Jose Ortiz, and they've been preparing, memos to track metrics and progress, where we're working. So what schools, parks, and beaches, what trees within the right of way, addresses, reasons for removal. It's basically a snapshot of the tree operations on a monthly basis. So what I'd like to do, starting the next meeting, is include March to April's, April to May, and then May to June. And you'll see that in your packet now. You're going to see 3 the first time, but after that, it'll be 1 on a 30-day span, give or take, how much tree work we're actually doing with the 2 tree crews that we have, which comprises about 8 people. So Chris, if you want to speak a little bit more, you can to that, but that's really the gist, is that there's a lot of tree work to be done. And unfortunately, there's only so much staff to do it. So we are prioritizing, especially the schools, parks, and beaches first. And then obviously any issues within the right of way that we have to address, that we either backed up, that we can get to, or moving forward to be proactive. So again, we only have so many resources, even with the Olmsted tree contract. But I'd like the council and the committee to see the hard work and really the amount of work that's being managed by the superintendent and his tree crew. So I think it'll give you a good snapshot and a good picture of where they're working, why they're working, how much they're working, and what exactly they're doing and why. So if there's any questions too about the report, which won't be exhaustive because we don't want to inundate people with too much data, but it'll be just the data that I think that you'll be interested in reading.
I think that would be a great idea. I look forward to seeing it. Just the information I've learned so far, just by talking to you guys, Chris, Paul, you're doing a wonderful job. I didn't even realize these systems were already in place of the tracking going on and the count of the trees and any future work. Arbor Day, I'm sorry I couldn't be there. I tried to make it, and it's unfortunate because from what I understood, it was a good turnout and a very, very nice event. I plan on being there next year, obviously. Are there any other comments or any information anybody would like to hear? Okay, seeing none. Again, just thank you and your staff, Anthony. I know this was a hot topic lately, and it was very informative, not just for me, but for a lot of people as well, from what I understand. Item number C, monthly solid waste report for March 2021.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, basically, both garbage and recycling are trending higher for the year. They're not, when I say trending, the amount of tonnage that's obviously collected and disposed of, they're not as high as the beginning of the pandemic, but they're definitely, again, trending down more towards the pre-pandemic conditions, but we're not totally there yet. The tonnages from last March, which was really marks the beginning of the major beginning of the COVID pandemic, are higher for both garbage and recycling. Obviously, we would expect that, right, if we compare March to March, but within the new window that we're in, we'll call it the pandemic window, volumes are still higher, but they definitely are trending down to more normal conditions, which isn't a bad thing. We're paying more to get rid of the garbage, which is $93 a ton, but we're also still making a little bit more revenue on the recycling, which we're reimbursed $17.50 per ton. We usually bring in about $150,000 a year, although that revenue is already higher. I don't have the report right in front of me. It's in the bottom of this pile, but I know we're exceeding $160,000 already. So more garbage, there's more money out, more money in. And again, we are the last municipality in Connecticut to receive a recycling rebate from our solid waste vendor, which is City Carting.
All right.
And we have that rebate until June 30th, 2023.
Any questions, comments? All right, Anthony, thanks again. Thanks for the update.
Very welcome.
We don't have anything for upcoming. So our next meeting is going to be Tuesday, June 1st, 2021, 7 p.m. But as discussed today at a earlier executive session, we are going to add an executive session prior to that meeting. Vanessa, do you have the language for that so we can announce it tonight? And it will go out.
So it will be for the purpose of disseminating legal opinions from city attorneys to committee members regarding claim of easement on Calf Pasture Beach city property. Discussion to include possible resolution and settlement of aforementioned claim. So that will happen. We'll start with the same thing as we did today at 6 p.m. on June 1st.
Okay. And that will be on the city website, and it will be in a packet going out to everyone. Seems like we've come to the end. Who would like to make the motion? Anybody? Thank you. Everybody wants to hang out. It's wonderful. I'm kind of hungry. All right, so motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. All right,
All
thank
right.
you very much.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. Stay safe. Take care. Thank you.
Good night.